Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And only a couple hours ago, Dragon and I got out of theaters and watched How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World for the first time. Because Dragon, we don't live in Australia, and neither of us happened to be lucky enough to catch that early February screening. It wasn't playing anywhere near me. But I digress, Dragon. It feels like everyone and their mother has gotten a chance to see this movie, but us. But now that we've finally seen it, Dragon, what's your hot take? What's your hot take on this thing?
I really enjoyed it. I really did. I thought it was honestly. I keep going back and forth between this and two. I think I like this better than two. Quite possibly, it could be the best in the entire franchise. But then again, it's kind of always hard to top the original. The original has kind of a pure story, but then again, two kind of has really great world building and kind of a huge dramatic moment. And again, that's kind of the each of them. My point is the How to Train Your Dragon franchise. It's titanium strong, man. It's a great series of movies. And what really delights me is that even the expanded universe stuff, which is not here's the thing, it's not even I don't want to say expanded universe in the probably is a poor choice of words. Let me put it this way: all the stuff that takes place in between the movies, all the animated series, pretty much umbrellaed under the same thing. They kind of filled the gaps in between the first two movies. Again, it all tracks, and as far as I can tell, they even there's like one reference in this movie too, which is like, oh man, they're doing their homework. They care about this franchise. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. Dragon, the question is, does this movie soar to new heights, or does it fail to fly on its own?
Um, well, I don't know. I think I don't. I mean, it's here's the thing. It's an ending. It's an ending to a trilogy, and I feel it's a great ending to a trilogy. And I mean, but by that logic, it's like it can't. I don't know if it soars, but I mean, I think it flies high. You know, I think it's like I don't know if it's like it's again. It basically two really kind of crash the roof, and like where else do you go from there?
Okay, I tell you one thing. This might be the first time that I have watched an animated film and thought the CG looked more realistic than the CG in, like, let's say 90% of like blockbuster films these days. And I just think the animation in this movie is another level. I mean, that's not to say anything for the story and the characters and all that, which I think is all great. Um, I just think from a pure visual spectacle point of view, this movie is just it's insanely creative. It's insanely well done. There's just some sequences that just literally just kind of bring a tear to your eye with how beautiful they are and how awe-striking they are.
So,
Uh,
so, so
really sitting, I was really just kind of leaning in my theater, just kind of leaning up to the screen, just trying to take it all in.
So suffice it to say, the strides in animation that were in How to Train Your Dragon 2 are definitely continued, if not even improved upon beyond what that was with the third installment. You'd agree?
I mean, yeah, no doubt. I think the all the particle effects, like the fire that you see here and the root image we have up, all the sand and environments, the beaches, the clouds.
Let's just say the water without specifically saying what about, but just the water,
Oh.
man, the water. You know what I'm talking about,
So
man.
just the world building, Dragon, just the way that we see Burke at the beginning of this movie, where it's just very much this dragon colony, and we see all the ins and outs of how that functions and kind of the pros and cons of it, and sort of like the day to day grind and hassle of it all, and it's just all presented in such a nuanced, clever, really, really tight way that gets across exactly what it means to in the imagery without overstaying its welcome at all.
Real quick, just wanted to give a few shout outs here. Luis Brooks, 1920 in the comments. Hello. And also Donovan Martin joining us this evening. I love this movie. Yes, CGI animation rocks. As in, yes, the animation in this movie is tremendous. Thanks for noticing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, the animation in this movie is like, I think that's my big takeaway. And honestly, Dragon, that's kind of like, as of right now, I'm kind of leaning towards like, I feel like the trilogy as a whole is awesome. I really do. It's like, I really do strongly feel like this trilogy kind of does for animation in terms of like telling a cohesive trilogy of films and keeping it really tight in the storytelling department. It's basically this decade's Toy Story. Um, However, I feel like there is a decline from movie to movie to movie, a very slight decline. But I really do feel like the first How to Train Your Dragons is the strongest because that's the one where we get all the emotional development, not just with Hiccup and Toothless, which is big. You know, that's like some pivotal, like some of the most memorable boy and his dog stuff in modern movie filmmaking right there. But we also get the really big stoic stuff, you know, the "you're not my son" moment, and then of course How to Train Your Dragon 2 just feels. I feel like the stakes are a little bit higher in How to Train Your Dragon 2, even though the Hidden World is kind of more of the end game of the series. Of course, the big death in How to Train Your Dragon 2 is kind of the big thing that really makes that movie stand out. And then we get to the Hidden World, and Dragon, I think you hit it right on the head. The Hidden World, it's a perfect endpoint. And I feel like it really relies on what's come before to really make it satisfying. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I just think it's the least standalone out of the three films.
I think the way of looking at it is each installment in the trilogy after the first one primarily. There's like I want to make this clear just how infinitesimal this is, but again, it's still like it's a minor thing, but it is noticeable. Where each film, primarily after the first one, has like one slight knock against it. Where you have first movie, you know, it's great, it's solid, it's familiar territory, but it's good familiar territory. You know, they really carry out the story real well. It's clear cut, simple. Okay, we fight the big dragon in the end. We free the kind of free the dragons from what seems to be the big oppressive essentially godfather of the dragons. Then we get to How to Train Your Dragon 2, and again, that movie is great. Again, all the strides in the world building, the heart, the emotion, the animation, it's tremendous. However, we get to the third act, and we just kind of get to like kind of a power up sort of thing. Where again, it's great, but then we get to like, okay, we just got to defeat the bad guy. We just got to run out of time. And then we get to this movie, where this movie again, it's great, but again, it definitely feels like we gotta wrap up our story here, not in a rushed way. But we got to wrap up our story it's an ending where you need some of what came before to fully appreciate. There's something missing from each, but very minorly, like something does not take away from the movie at all, but something like it's kind of noticeable.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But you know, in that regard, I still feel like it really does kind of cement itself as a great trilogy of animated films, and I don't think we can take anything away from it. I really do think that this is just a really, really just pitch perfect, solid trilogy of movies. It just
Absolutely.
and I think the only difference between this and the Toy Story movies is that the Toy Story movies, Toy Story, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, they have more of an identity into themselves. You know what I mean? Like you think of those movies and you know, Toy Story 2, you think of all the Jessie stuff and the Big Al's Toy Barn and everything, and then the traffic cones and all that, and the Barbie. Toy Story 3, of course, you think of Lotso and you think of all the emotionally crushing stuff with the ending, and you think of Sunnyside, and you think of Michael Keaton Ken. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like the Toy Story movies individually have more of an identity. However, I Dragon uh, it might honestly tell a more epic, more coherent, more like flowing from movie to movie narrative than Toy Story does. If you look at it as one big story, Dragon.
Well, sure, and of course, it's kind of loosely adapting a book series, so it definitely kind of has some of that built in.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, the Toy Story films definitely do have like an identity to each of them, and like even if you want to look at Toy Story 3 has one thing I think this movie does not have, where this movie Toy Story 3 has a better recap of it all. where Toy Story 3 has like you have the thing at the opening where you have like kind of the imagination, basically the perspective of the kid's imagination that essentially recaps the very first scene in Toy Story with with all of our characters from Toy Story 2 included as well. So basically, it's kind of a total recap of what you need to know from those two movies going into the new adventures. My point is like if you could, Toy Story 3 is kind of a movie for the next generation of Toy Story fans. They could be introduced to these characters and kind of get the premise, and then kind of have this film that both they and their parents and other older Toy Story fans could get a huge kick out of. And How to Train Your Dragons has a lot of, without giving away, has a lot of loving reverence and really clever references to the first film. Again, it feels very circular. It feels very kind of narratively, feels very full circle, and I loved all those elements. And I will say this: I think 3 has the best villain out of the whole franchise. I love the villain.
Oh yeah,
in 3.
for sure, no.
And you know what, Teak? I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I love. It's basically the villain was what I wanted to see. I remember we did like the How to Train Your Dragons pitch like way back in the day, and How to Train Your Dragons 3. And basically, this kind of villain is exactly what I wanted to see. Like kind of a calculating guy who had like kind of a point about the dragons and everything. And I love that. In essence, without getting too into it, he's sort of like a what if. It's really like what if Hiccup did not did not go the way he went in the movie. So he feels very much like a reflection of Hiccup. And I feel the best villains in the whole of the How to Train Your Dragons franchise. And when I say villains, you're probably wondering, what does he mean by that? What I mean by that is, if you look at the animated series for How to Train Your Dragons, which you don't need for this, you can enjoy these films even without the animated series. But it's really interesting. Again, it keeps up the quality of the films and the animation quality, and they have really great, like, kind of more human villains in that versus like kind of a big dragon foe of it all per movie, and of course, you have Drago Bloodfist in the second one. I know the Jamon Hansu character, of course, but what I'm getting at is you have like kind of better villains in the animated series. But this one felt like kind of like the king of all villains, period, with this franchise, and it's like they're kind of continuing that and kind of improving upon it in the films.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So,
where else do you want to go with this, Dragon? Because I'm kind of don't necessarily know what else we can talk about that's not spoilery. I will think this movie gave a better distribution of screen time to all the supporting characters than perhaps any of the other movies did.
It did, especially and Tika. This is why
I feel like each one of them really got a chance to shine, and not just a chance to shine, but they really did have their own arc going on throughout the movie.
And Tiki, I don't mean just to keep going back to like a broken record. The reason I keep mentioning the animated show is that this movie, again, felt like you were kind of rewarded for doing the extra credit in a way, because that show, it developed those side characters, it developed those supporting characters, and it felt very consistent with that. And this movie gave them a little bit more to do and kind of piggybacked off, like kind of put it into play in 2. Entering Dragon 2, we kind of put into play where, okay, these characters kind of like Fish Legs and Snotlet were kind of vying over, it was either Rough Nut or Tough Nut, can't keep them straight. It's been a while since I've watched the show. I can't remember which one's which, but the twins, the lady twin.
Pretty sure that's Rough Nut.
Rough Nut, yes. I think you're right. It is Rough Nut. I got it now. It's Rough Nut.
All right.
Remember now. The point being, Rough. They were vying over the attention of Rough Nut, and that was kind of, again, putting those things into play, and that's pretty much okay. That we gave them something to do, and then the animated show kind of developed that even more, building up to that point. So the idea is like that was kind of the end point of what the animated show was. How to Train Your Dragon 2. Basically, it just filled the gaps in between movie 1 and movie 2. And what I'm getting at with all this is that, again, this felt like a more of a continuation of their feel very in character. They feel like you Snotlet is kind of the dumb guy of the group, which again, it's serviced really well in this movie. The Astrid Hiccup thing, of course. But importantly, I won't say how exactly. Let's just say the twins. The twins aren't kind of left in the wayside. I love that the twins get really good bits in the movie. They're not just like side characters like they were in the very first movie. They're just like, okay, so there's kind of comedy force there. You're just like, okay, just go to the twins for a laugh. And they have a laugh, don't get me wrong, but they also have some relevance to the plot. Like running gags, if you will.
All right.
Also, let me call out a few comments here.
Okay.
Donovan Martin, this movie deserves an Oscar 2020. I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Jonathan, I legitimately want this movie to go the Kubo route and get nominated for best visual effects. That's what I want for this movie.
Yep. Let's see. Grimmel equals best villain is what Hiccup could have been, and yes, I absolutely agree with that. Again, he's basically a road Hiccup could have gone down, which would have, basically Hiccup could have become Grimmel's. And more on that, we don't want to get too into that here, but yes, absolutely, I agree with you emphatically. Uh, Monkey in the comments here, he says,
Oh,
well, let me bet this real quick here.
hi Rob, can't wait to see you in a couple days.
I think there are more than 5 blue dragons in this movie. And yes, Monkey, you're correct.
I think so. I think so.
There were, yes. All right, and also Donovan also points out that at least Drago Bloodfist, this dragon, made a cameo. And yes, and well, I won't say how, but yeah, there's a little nice little cameo of
Well, that's the thing, Dragon. I do like how, as you mentioned earlier, it does kind of weave all these ideas throughout the three movies together, and it does feel very tidy and neat, and really kind of checking off all the boxes of what we need to see ticked off with the trilogy and the organic character arcs to these characters.
Here's the thing, Tiki. I'm not much of a, you know, what I mean, I'm not much of a Lord of the Rings guy. I really have never,
Oh, but this very much feels Lord of the Rings, Dragon.
that's what I'm saying, Tiki. Like
This is very, very, very Lord of the Rings.
There's definitely some bits in the movie. I won't say what bits specifically, but Tiki, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a bit in this movie that looks very Lord of the Rings esque, and if it already had, like, and we've kind of, I think we framed the whole
there's several Lord of the Rings bits in this thing.
Sure, and I'm sure, like, look, I'm sure we've referenced, like, we've compared How to Train Your Dragon to Lord of the Rings a little bit, and all the time we've been talking about. I'm sure we've done that at some point.
I mean, I'm sure we've at least made the comparison before.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Is very much like this movie is Lord of the Rings in a way the series has not been Lord of the Rings.
I mean, to me, this is like a Lord of the Rings that's far more compelling to me. This series, this franchise, like, yeah, I can fully invest in these guys. I love them. This to me feels like the Lord of the Rings. I really don't need what I mean by that is, like, this is Lord of the Rings. This animated franchise is all the Lord of the Rings I'm ever going to need in life.
Fair enough. Dragon,
I'm not knocking Lord.
I grew up with the Lord of the Rings books, and so when those movies came out, it kind of blew my mind that they could be made to begin with. So I have a soft spot for Lord of the Rings. I really do.
And I'm not knocking Lord of the Rings. I'm just saying you got to get really involved in that one. I mean, this one, they're doing, like, what is it? Like the Hobbit movies are in the same universe.
Well, right? The Hobbit movies suck. They're an entirely different matter.
Well, you know what? My point is, like, they're really just kind of going.
Just look at the Hobbit movies as the fucking Star Wars prequels. That's what
I'm saying. It's my point is it's a long.
That's about what they mean to the pop culture landscape.
It's a long commitment, and I don't want to get into semantics. I know semantics.
No, I'm saying you don't need the commitment of the Hobbit movies at all.
No, I'm talking about the main movies, talking about the main trilogy now. But
it's still a long commitment, just with the 3 movies, sure.
Yeah, long commitment thing, and regardless for anyone who wants to argue semantics, like, How to Train Your Dragons is not remotely like Lord of the Rings. By all means, I'm sure you're right. I'm just using it as a point compared to, like, the big trilogy, like the big.
I mean, I feel like it's got some of the same tones. I feel like it's got some of the same allegory, even though I know Tolkien hates allegory, but what allegory is in the work is kind of shown through into How to Train Your Dragon as well. I definitely feel like the character archetypes and the hero's journey is very similar between the two.
Yep. Also, Donovan Martin agrees with me. How to Train Your Dragon is also my Lord of the Rings, so thank you, Donovan.
Nice. All right.
Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything we can really tease, anything else we can tease up here.
I can tease the fact that I really love the ending. Obviously, we won't go into it at all, but
myself as well. But again, we can't go into it at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, I can tease that.
Okay, let me tease this. I mean, again, I love at the start of this movie we address again. I love we continue the world building, but we also have a really lovely practical issue that comes from it. And that's basically the premise of the whole movie. So I love that we continue to build momentum, and it's a great visual as well. It's a great visual that basically it's a big. If you had like one image to sum up like an installment of a trilogy, basically it's like kind of opens the movie when we go back to Burke. It's like, yeah, that summarizes kind of where we're at in the third movie versus where we were in the first movie. That's all great.
No, for sure.
There's a lot of really great things like that in this movie. Oh, here's one more thing we can talk about, though. Okay. So Tiki, this marks. I was my friend. I was informed my buddy when I saw this couple friends who were big How to Train Dragon fans, and my friend's not in all the know of knows of what's going on in the animation culture, if you will. And I was basically he noticed in the opening credits of the movie the whole Universal logo that popped up first, and a Comcast company. So this is the first official movie. I believe it's the first official one. I'm not sure if like they slipped it under the radar with like Captain Underpants or Boss Baby. I'm not quite certain, but I believe this is the first official one where it's under the new Universal
Yeah, I
contract.
noticed that. I noticed that. Right.
Kind of whispered it to him while I was watching the movies, like, yeah, they kind of have the partnership with Illumination going on, where Universal, which
It's
means
a good one. It's a good one to start with, Dragon.
it is. And remember, that's why we had the delay on How to Train Your Dragon, because DreamWorks was having a lot of production kind of company trouble, which is why it kind of got delayed a year or so. And basically, kind of, I don't know if they had to reach this deal to kind of complete the movie or not, but the point is just it was. So I wouldn't say this is like a promise of like DreamWorks is going to be in good hands going forward. I would say this might be a holdover. So we're going to wait and see if they can keep up this quality, because this is phenomenal.
Sure.
And again, the bases are low. It's the third in the trilogy, so you never want to blindly assume.
Dragon, one other thing I want to tease without getting into specifics with this movie. It kind of goes along with the animation, but I think it's like one step above just having really good animation and effects and everything. Dragon, there are a couple scenes in this movie that don't have any dialogue at all. It's just the music and it's just the expressions of the characters and the atmosphere. Dragon, these scenes are like fucking modern day Fantasia. They're so gorgeous.
Well, of course, there's one big sequence. Absolutely, yes.
You know what I'm doing? There's a couple. There's a couple that are very much modern day Fantasia. That's the thing, Dragon. That's the thing. That's one of the things that I really, really admire about this franchise as a whole. One of the big reasons I'm so into this franchise is that this is like one of the few animated franchises that they like. Yeah, sure. There's jokes in this movie. There's comic relief characters, as there are in every animated movie. But this series never set out to be a comedy, Dragon. This series always, first and foremost, set out to be something really artistic with a big, bold, ambitious story that had something to say. And my God, I admire it for that. And I am so glad that we have this trilogy. Dragon, I think bar none, this trilogy is like, it's DreamWorks' masterpiece. I mean, wouldn't you agree, just looking at it like as one cohesive work, it's DreamWorks' masterpiece?
As one cohesive work, yes, because my friends and I always have this debate. Well, my friends, they get more involved in it than I do, because I like them both. But the biggest debate in the DreamWorks franchises is there's a lot of dissent with Kung Fu Panda, the franchise, specifically with the third movie. Everyone's like iffy on the third movie. And How to Train Your Dragon, after seeing this, it does not have that problem. And it was, it's a masterpiece of trilogy. So
I need to see it again to determine if I like it like better than the second one. I know the first one is my favorite, Dragon. The first one, can we agree on that? Can we sign off on that?
I mean, that Tiki, as much as I'd love to say this third one maybe is the best, if I'm being honest, I'd be lying to myself there. Where it's hard to beat the first one.
That's a bad thing, Dragon, and I think this is a good example of like we're living in a culture where it's like, oh, you're saying it's not as bad it's not as good as the first movie, well, therefore it sucks. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that the first movie is one of the best animated films of the decade. This also might be one of the best animated films of the decade. It just so happens that the first movie has a bigger impact and a tighter story.
I mean, I guess the comparison, bear in mind, I'm not really apt to give this comparison. I'm just going to give it a shot anyway. Just go figure. Again, it's kind of the return of tell me if this sounds right. It's the return of the king of animated movies in the last decade. Would you say that?
What, like How to Train Your Dragons as a whole, or just three?
Well, I mean, I guess I think I mean three specific. Well, yeah, three. Let's just say
because three very much is Return of the King.
I think I guess that's pretty apt. Right. But yes, Tika, I do agree. And also, one other thing we talked before, I'll read off some comments here. We do have some great facial hair comedy.
Yes.
There's a lot of great facial hair comedy in this movie. Just wanted to get that in there. I mean, not just the folks being. One more time?
Anyways, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make that awkward.
Right. Anyway, so let's see.
I,
So
I'm just saying the replacement was like, oh, he doesn't sound like a dirtbag.
are we
It's
sure
still
it
the same.
was a?
This doesn't sound like a dirtbag.
Are we sure it was a replacement?
I'm pretty sure.
Well, if they got a replacement, I'll bet you dollars to donuts it was the actor from the TV show. Well, wait a
Yeah,
minute.
I'd
Wait,
be
no. Well,
surprised. Yeah.
hold it. Wait a minute. It just occurred to me. I feel so stupid because I said this earlier, but no, I was wrong about this. The actor in the TV show is T.J. Miller.
Oh God. Oh, maybe it is T.J. Miller still. I'm so sorry.
Here's the
And
thing: a friend of mine looked it up, and he saw T.J. Miller, but I didn't know if he typed in like Hidden World or just in general the topic of How to Train Your Dragon. So I don't know if like when he popped up, he was looking overall. T.J. Miller has played that role and everything, but I assumed that he was in the movie, but I did hear some lines that sound like, is it a sound alike? Is it not a sound alike? So
well,
I
that's
don't
what
know.
I'm saying, man. Because I guess I'm just used to the sound alike for Big Hero 6 for T.J. Miller.
A part of me wonders if they kind of spliced it because, and there were some lines that
Uh-huh.
sound like direct T.J. Miller improvs. It's like that's T.J. Miller. I can hear T.J. Miller in that delivery. And beyond that, it's like there's some lines that maybe don't sound exactly like him. But again, actor in TV show is also T.J. Miller. So like, yeah, that has to be him. By
Oh man.
probably, I don't know. Look, I don't. I'm not. I don't know.
Why
I guess
don't you go fucking report more people for bomb threats on trains,
all
TJ?
right. Let's not get pointed here. Point being, okay, what I'm getting at is like maybe we'll be able to confirm or deny that when we get to our spoiler cast
Uh-huh.
down the line. But anyway, so let me read off some fun stuff.
Okay.
So Hiccup looks like a dragon knight, says Donovan, and yes, he does, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's such a great character arc. We'll definitely be getting into the like the overall Hiccup character arc when I get back from vacation next week, and we'll be able to do the How to Train Your Dragon spoiler cast.
Let's see some other stuff from Donovan here. Is hopefully DreamWorks and Universal make good movies. Hey, I'm hoping. We'll see what happens. Again, if this is any indicator, be great. But we'll see what happens.
Do we know the next DreamWorks thing on the docket?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It used to be they had them really lined up there, but then since the shakeup and the reorganization, it's a little up in the air. Because remember, the Shrek's on the docket, but I don't know. I don't think they have attached years to them at this point.
Uh-huh.
Bear in mind, it's been a while since I looked into it, but they used to have like a lined up what they were going to do. Because one movie they had in the running was this. It was called like it was going to be a parody of. It was called Boo, as in like Agents of Boo or something. Not Agents of Boo. It was like the bureau. It was like a Bureau for Paranormal Investigation. Boo, so it's possible like kind of a possibly it's like maybe a cross between Men in Black and Ghostbusters. I'm not sure. I have no idea what that project
No,
is.
thank you.
My point is, it might not be that. I'm saying they have like a ghost related title about like sound like a Bureau of Investigation about ghosts. So that's what it sounded like. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, the point is that was the last project I thought they had like directly in the docket. But then again, there's like a number of sequels in the Shrek thing that's in. Oh, okay, Boo's been shelved according to Donovan Martin. So maybe okay, I guess that's the case. That's the thing. There's a number of projects that were confirmed that then were shelved after the shakeup. So I'm not sure anymore. I think it's all just speculative, like the Shrek 5 that they're doing, and maybe it's a remake.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's unclear. Anyway, beyond
at
that,
this point, Dragon, I think what they need to do is they need to just kind of I don't want to say they should repeat themselves with How to Train Your Dragon per se, but honestly, if they could find another lesser known series of children's books and loosely adapt them and really, find something that like gets a good sense of world building in there. Like that's the thing, Dragon. I feel like DreamWorks is like immensely underrated for the world building because when they get it right, they get it really right.
yeah. Let's see. Donovan has a really nice thought here. So blessed to grow up with this trilogy. Never going to be something like this ever again. And he might have a point. We can always hope that we'll have something like this again. Kind of basically like How to Train Your Dragons is sort of like a cinematic equivalent to what an Avatar: Last Airbender movie would have been like, or a movie series would have been like.
Sure.
It's kind of like again we have like I'd love to think that if Avatar was done right on the big screen, if it would be something like How to Train Your Dragon, maybe.
But yeah,
Oh, Donovan.
I do think it's a special set of movies. I really do. I think it's a I just think the quality level, it didn't necessarily exceed each film, but I think it kept it a super consistent rate with each film. Like each film is, like just about as iron tight with the quality as the last one.
Yep, Donovan confirms that T.J. Miller was in the movie.
Oh, my bad, my bad.
Yeah, okay, that's refreshing. All right, so then again, DreamWorks world building is amazing. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It came out all wrong. DreamWorks world building is amazing, so underrated. There's a missing comma there. I'm not faulting his grammar, so that's why I boxed it up. But yes, the world building in DreamWorks movies can be really good. Of course, El Dorado being one of the biggest that kind of springs to mind
Yeah,
instantly.
El Dorado was really good. I mean, even like
I mean, Kung Fu Panda as well as the
I'm
instant
not
version.
even trying to joke around here. I thought that B movie had really good world building.
It did. I'll give you that. It did have, again, not a perfect movie, but does have good
Yeah,
world
it's not a
building.
great movie at all, but
Of course, let's talk about my favorite DreamWorks movie. I think has some of the best world building that I still want to see worlds built from, but will probably never happen because the world is unfair. Megamind. Oh,
yeah.
please, Megamind. TV, like,
I'm sorry, Dragon. Can you just give your final thoughts really quick?
yeah, sure. So, folks, I think we love. I think we all love this movie. I can't wait to talk about it further. Yes, Megamind is awesome, Donovan Martin. But again, folks, I think it kind of does it all for us here. Again, can't wait to see. I can't wait to talk about in depth and all spoilers galore, folks. When we talk about How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World, it's going to be delightful. We hope to see you there. It's going to be a little while, probably next week by my approximation. We'll be there with bells on.
Guessing Thursday. Thursday looks to be the day on the docket, unless anything horrible goes wrong.
Certainly, but we'll be talking about it as soon as we are able to, folks. It's going to be as soon as we're able to beyond the stuff we kind of have to get done by February's end. But the point is that we're definitely going to get to it as soon as we can.
All right. And meanwhile, Dragon, I'm going to Disneyland.
Woo!
Well, mostly not very far, but also Disneyland.
Because some people have the luxury.